This reading is entitled The Wild Hogs of the Northern Parishes of Louisiana. It is a chapter from the book Hunting Bear and Panther in the Old South, the writings of Dr. Henry J. Peck of Sicily Island, Louisiana. If you find these presentations worthwhile, please be sure to like, subscribe, and share them. Also, check out our website, canebrakes.com. The Wild Hogs of the Northern Parishes of Louisiana. Presuming a short account of hogiology, if I may be allowed to coin a word, in the swamps of Louisiana may not be entirely unacceptable to some of your numerous readers, I have concluded to scribble you a few lines on that subject. The settlements on the level or lowlands are usually along the margins of rivers, lakes, and bayous, there usually being a belt of land from 1/4 of a mile to 2 miles in breadth, which is arable and rarely subject to overflows. As you recede from these into the still lower lands that are almost annually inundated, you find yourself, unless during the flood of the Great Father of Waters, in open woods entirely clear of bog or morass, occasionally checkered here and there with a canebrake on the most elevated spots, and then again with palmetto, sometimes in small patches and again extending for miles, varying in height from 2 to 8 feet on the lowest parts of the swamp. The timber in these lowlands is composed of 15 varieties of oak, swamp hickory, persimmon of 2 varieties, pecan, etc., some of which rarely ever fail in producing an abundant mast. On the most elevated ridges we have a variety of grapevines, bamboo, 2 species of the vine producing the trumpet flower, the greenbrier, and many other kinds of vines that entwine their pliant folds around every tree within their reach, and render the spot entirely impenetrable to a horseman. In the open parts of the swamp, for in the South all land is called swamp that is or ever has been subject to overflow, where the timber is scattering, there are several varieties of the grapes which are peculiar to these swamps, and also many weeds and flowers that are in bloom during the winter months. These lowlands are not arable and never will be, as the lowest of them are the reservoirs not only of the Mississippi floods, but are also the receptacles for the overflows of the Arkansas, the Ouachita, and Red River. The breadth of these inundated lands is from 10 to 40 miles. Here, then, is our wild hog range. The wild hogs are usually 3 or 4 years in coming to maturity and frequently weigh from 200 to 300 pounds gross. Their color is various: black, white, sandy, and red, and every variety of mixture which these colors will admit of. Their form is ordinary, having rather too much leg, which makes them quite heely at times, rather slab-sided with a roached back, well set off with long stiff bristles, which when elevated in battle array give them a quite formidable appearance. There is, however, much variety in the form and size of these hogs, as they are crossed and recrossed by new recruits which stray off to them in search of mast, or fall in company with them in their rambles near the plantations. Hence you occasionally see some of them that might pass for a distant relation to a Berkshire, and again you come across one whose whiteness and whose rounded hams would say that some of his ancestors had had a letter of introduction to a grazier from the land of St. Patrick. The wild hogs subsist on a great variety of food. In the fall and winter months they fare sumptuously on the great variety of mast which the oaks, persimmons, hackberries, pecan, and palmetto yield, together with the grape that contributes its beautiful clusters in great profusion. In the spring and in the early summer months their fare is frequently scarce, and they are frequently driven by high water and hemmed up on the more elevated parts of the swamp that are covered with cane. Then they subsist on young cane, roots, the roots of the blackberry or dewberry, and the wild potato. At this season they usually become quite poor. As the water subsides, they fare very sumptuously on fish of every description that have been entangled in the vines, thickets, and canebrakes by the sudden falling of the water. Shellfish of various kinds, such as the logger-headed turtle, the soft shell, the common terrapin, crawfish, and shrimp, add to their bill of fare and make up quite a variety of fishy food. The wild hogs usually feed in the daytime, unless they are frequently hunted, in which case they feed in the night and conceal themselves during the day in briar thickets, canebrakes, and sometimes in large hollow trees and logs, which are favorite haunts for them in the winter months. They usually live together in small numbers, sometimes as many as 15 or 20 old hogs, with their yearling shotes and pigs, generally numbering sufficiently strong to repel the assaults of the wolves, which are very numerous, and in consequence of their numbers, their most troublesome enemies. The wolves never attack them openly and boldly, but follow after them and conceal themselves until a favorable opportunity occurs. Then they seize a pig or shote that is carelessly strayed at some distance from the old hogs, for at the first squeal the old hogs make a furious charge en masse, while the young cluster in the rear until their enemies have been beaten off, when they all retreat at the first favorable opportunity. Their sense of smell is much more acute than any person would suppose who has been acquainted with his swineship in a domestic state only. They can smell a man who happens to be to the windward of them some 100 or 200 yards when there is any current in the atmosphere, and when they are feeding in the open woods they are generally on the qui-vive. And in passing, let me say that these long-faced gentry have not had their eyes stuck above their lantern jaws to no purpose. Their senses of smelling and seeing are acute, and hence a still damp day is usually selected for hog hunting. They often display a good deal of cunning in concealing themselves, for when in the thicket or canebrakes they will squat, and you may ride within 30 feet of them, and if neither the hunter nor dogs discover them, they will lie close to the ground until they think they have been discovered, or until their pursuers have passed by. It is common for deer, similarly situated, to do the same thing. The month of January is the most usual time for hunting the wild hog, as he is usually fatter at that season than at any other time of the year, and the weather being cooler is better adapted to preserving his flesh. Hounds are occasionally brought in requisition in hunting these animals, but they are objectionable, as their noise gives the hogs early notice of the approach of the hunters, and taking the advantage of such a start, it is difficult to overtake them, as they are equal to a 4-mile horse in a long-winded chase, particularly if the chase happens to be through heavy canebrakes, greenbrier thickets, and cypress pines, and these are favorite retreats. The dogs most suitable for hunting wild hogs are able-bodied, active curs that take the trail and follow it up silently until they come up with the hogs, when they bring them to a bay by barking at them. And if they do not stop, they seize one, which immediately causes them to rally, when the dogs in turn retreat a short distance, separate, and by occasionally seizing and again retreating and barking, they occupy the attention of the hogs until the hunters have time to ride up, select each one the largest hog, and shoot them down, at which time the hogs make an attempt to escape, but the dogs again overhaul them, and again the hunters thin out their numbers until they have killed as many as they can conveniently manage when they return home, and the remainder of the gang make their way to other neighborhoods, but usually return in the course of a few days to their wonted range, and again at a suitable time encounter the same scenes of extermination. Hog hunters usually shoot off their horses if the woods are sufficiently open to admit of it, as it is occasionally dangerous to approach on foot. In fact, horses are sometimes crippled by these hogs, for an old wild boar is as furious and dangerous as a bear, particularly if he has been shot at and crippled, and been much harassed by the dogs. The wild hogs of the swamps, although they cost neither care nor cash, are a great pest to the planters, For by frequenting the range of the gentle hogs, they soon impart their wild nature to them, and if they are not closely attended to, they soon quit the plantation to return no more. The Berkshire and Grazier are destined ere long to supplant these worthless creatures that require more labor to hunt than they are worth. We are getting wide awake on the subject of hogs, and we will not desist till we have stocked our range with the broad-backed Berkshire. Respectfully, Henry J. Peck, Sicily Island, Louisiana, May 1st, 1842. Again, this selection was from the book Hunting Bear and Panther in the Old South, the writings of Dr. Henry J. Peck of Sicily Island, Louisiana. If you found this worthwhile, please like and subscribe, and do check out our website, canebreaks.com. Thank you.